Okay, welcome everyone. It's 9:30. We'll make a start. I'll declare the council meeting CL 23/18 open. Welcome everyone here. In particular, welcome to Wayne Stevenson, who will do his swearing in shortly. I'll open with a karakia. Whakatau mai te wairua, whakawātea mai te hinanaru, whakarite mai te tinana, kia ea ai ngā mahi. Ai. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and the consequences of that. I have an apology from Councillor Coxhead and from Councillor Murray Benj. Can I have a mover and seconder for those, please? Councillor Granger, Councillor Sol. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Councillor Joyce just made it time. Consideration of late items. There is one late item for the open section of the meeting. That's the supplementary report for annual report 2022-23. This was not included on the agenda because it was necessary to update the document and it could not be delayed to the next scheduled meeting, and we need to resolve item 11.2. So for consideration of the late item, can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Joyce, Councillor Thwaites, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Okay, thank you. Public excluded items, there are none. Public forum, I'm not aware of any at the moment. So we'll move on to the minutes, Community Ward minutes for receipt, starting on page 8. So the minutes of the Kadikadi Community Ward meeting held on the 15th of November 2023 be received. Councillor Henry, Councillor Joyce, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Mokura Community Ward meeting, 21 November 2023. All those in favour, please say aye. Sorry, I made a move a second, no, sorry. Councillor Granger and Councillor Deputy Mayor Scrimger, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Council and committee meetings, minutes. So we've got the community committee held on 23rd of November. I'm happy to move that. Do we have Councillor Daly to second that? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the Te Puke Spatial Plan Subcommittee meeting on the 22nd of November. Deputy Mayor Scrimger, Councillor Wickers. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the council meeting on the 23rd of November. I'm happy to move that. And Deputy Mayor Scrimger, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the District Plan Committee held on the 23rd of November. Deputy Mayor Scrimger, yes. Councillor Granger, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So now on to to our reports. Item 11.1 on page 58, which is the formal declaration of Wayne Stevenson for appointment to the Waihi Beach Community Board. So I'm going to ask Wayne to join me at the lectern and attest his declaration. So if Wayne, you'd like to come up and join me. Read from there, please.
I, Wayne Stevenson, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of Waihi Beach community the powers, authorities and duties vested in me or imposed upon me as a member of the Waihi Beach Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meeting Acts 1987 or any other act. Dated at Tauranga this 14th day of December 2023.
Thank you, Wayne. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the Western Bay of Plenty District Council whānau as an official Waihi Beach Community Board member, and we look forward to working with you as you represent and advocate for your community. Congratulations. Well done. So we just need a mover and seconder to receive the report and confirm that the oral and written declaration by Wayne Stevenson was witnessed and signed by myself. Councillor Joyce, Councillor Sol, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So we're now going to adjourn for morning tea so we can celebrate Wayne and his wife there. And we're going to return at 9:50. So we'll just adjourn now. Okay? Thank you. Okay, so we're back to it, I think. So we're going to move on to item 11.2 on page 62, which is the annual report 2022-23. And for this one, we've got Azura, our CFO, to take us through this one.
Good morning. I'm very pleased to present the annual report for our 2023 financial year. I just want to briefly explain the supplementary attachment as well as the previous attachment and just talk through some of the highlights of the financial year. I'm very pleased to say that we have received an unqualified opinion and we've got present with us today our audit team. We have, at the time of tabling the initial attachment, there were 3 key areas that were changed. And it is really in terms of the stormwater measures, the disclosures. The second item was around vested assets, and the third being our CoLab, which is our CCO, being included in the report. The detailed changes are there within the report as an appendix, and we've also reflected that through a summary report that's attached. In terms of the highlights for the financial year, there's been a number of key areas that we talk about within our notes. Really just wanted to highlight that in the financial year, we ended the year with an 8.1 million revenue higher than budget, and $4.16 million in costs. This resulted in an unfavourable variance of 1.8 mil. So it was a 16.8 mil surplus at the end of the year. In terms of the annual report, I just wanted to say that in the balance sheet, we've reached a net equity of 11791 million compared to 1623 million in 2023 year. And also our capital delivery for the year was at 52 million, which is compared to 40.9 million last year. So there's been an increase in our spend. This is obviously a year that has been hit by extreme weather events and a really challenging year in terms of the economic climate that we're in. And so the result that we've landed on, we're very pleased with this, and we go into the new year with a really strong balance sheet and the financial result. Just want to open up for any questions from here, and if there's anything that anyone wants to wishes us to answer, we can take questions from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Azura. I just want to highlight to members that there's going to be three sets of resolutions here, slightly different from what's in the main agenda, and that is to receive basically what we received last Thursday in the main published agenda, and consider that information alongside what's been the late item. We're going to move to change the order of business to for that supplementary report, and then to receive the audit opinion and adopt the annual report. That's just a sort of summary now. But I think it's best if we just take questions all in the round, as it were, and I'll open the floor now. So, Councillor Granger.
With your indulgence, Your Worship, this isn't a question, this is a compliment. I just want to put on record my thanks as the Chair of Audit and Risk and Finance for the mammoth effort that has been put in by Adele and Azura and Sarah and the rest of the finance team staff. And I also wish to compliment Anton and Daryl and Leon, left the boss out, for the positive and cooperative way that they have worked with our staff to get this audit over the line so that we can adopt this annual report at this meeting. So thanks to all involved for the efforts that you've put in. I know it's been a lot of time spent ironing out the last few details, and the work you've put in is appreciated. So just want to note that. And also thanks to Stuart Henderson, who's online, for his input over the various meetings that we've had.
Thank you, Councillor Granger. I'm sure that's much appreciated by the Audit New Zealand members and also staff. So thank you for sharing those congratulations and thanks. Are there any other questions? Councillor Joyce.
Sorry, I have looked through this and I couldn't find it. We used to get a report quarterly of the internal loan balances and current account. and we were told that's not available for now, but it would be in the annual report, as I understand it. So I know we've been given that in Stellar, in our internal system, but is that table being published to the public, please?
I'll let Azura answer that one.
I can take that. So the 2023 year-end position was reported at the ARF committee, and we're happy to recirculate that through to you. The Audit, Risk and Finance in November. It is available.
Yep, that's okay. And then I also had a question, and it's an open question, I don't know the answer, but 2 years ago in the long-term plan, the commitment from council was that our elderly housing program would be stand on its own 2 feet, and that it wouldn't be a draw on ratepayers. And this might be one perhaps for our audit colleagues, but if a council makes a policy commitment, a financial policy commitment around that, how should we report that back to the public? And should it be, say, in the annual report, we've made this important policy pledge to the public, and should we have some form of audited check on that as a key pledge that the council's made to its public?
I'll let Azura answer that one as well, please.
So, sorry, is that in terms of the policy versus what we've reported?
In terms of how we report elderly housing, we've told the public it's standalone, right? It will stand on its own 2 feet. So that in terms of the current account and the loan portfolio, I mean, there's obviously you could do a P&L and a balance sheet for that activity, right? But I'm not saying that's how we should do it, but how should we report that back to the public?
So in the last month, we've actually finalised a financial model for elderly housing, which we've actually spent quite a considerable amount of time, and we do intend to bring that back through to council for a workshop with the full details of the financials, and then going forward from there, we can then finalise the reporting mechanisms around that.
I think the question, as I'm hearing it, is a technical one. If we've made an assurance to public that we are going to ring fence and that it's going to wash its face, so to speak, do we need to assert that within the annual report that we have actually achieved that? I think is the question. So it's a technical one. Do we need to, within our annual report, have that assertion? And have we?
Tēnā koutou katoa. Your Worship, yes, Councillor, this is reported in the annual report as one of your performance measures. So that's not specifically audited because we assessed it as not material. So we didn't dig into it, but we looked at reasonability for it.
I think it's probably worth mentioning that it seems like a performance measure rather than it's not a subsidiary or a separate company, which might be more formally reported in the annual report, but it's a performance issue.
Yeah, I agree. It's just that it was a pledge that was made to the public. So it's a financial pledge, right? But I agree, it's a performance pledge rather than a statutory pledge. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Councillor Crawford.
Just looking at the just looking at summarising. So the total income for 2000. Okay. Yeah, just on page 78. So the total income generated this last year was 137 million versus the year before 144 million. And then if you look over on the net debt was 74.9 million compared to 54.5 in debt. So the question I was asking is about the total income. I'm not sure what this it just says the council, so I'm sure our income was more than that, but just noticed that there was quite less by Masawi 7. Was that 6 plus 3, 9 million? So is that largely due because of less Fincos, all that kind of stuff like that might have, and then the debt is about 20 million more.
Yes, we're about 3 million behind on Fincos at the end of last year, so that was the main driver for that. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions for Azura or the auditors? No? Okay, so I'll start with the first set of recommendations, which I'll read out because they have changed. So recommendation 1, that the CFO's officers report dated 14 December titled Annual Report 22-23 be received. So that's last Thursday's version. 2, that the report relates to an issue that is considered of medium significance, etc. And 3, that council considers the information provided in this report when presented with the recommendation to adopt the annual report 22-23 included in late item 13.1 supplementary report, annual report 22-23. So can I have a mover and seconder for those 3 recommendations, please? Councillor Granger, and I'm Deputy Mayor Scrimger. Any debate? No? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So now we need to change the order of business, that the next item of business be late item supplementary report, annual report 2022-23. I'll move that. Seconder from Deputy Mayor Scrimger. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. And now we move to the supplementary report. Firstly, that the Finance Manager's report dated 14 December, titled Supplementary Report, Annual Report be received. Secondly, that the Council receive the audit opinion from Audit New Zealand for Western Bay of Plenty District Council's financial statements and performance information for the year ended 30th of June. That's in attachment 1 of this report. 3, that pursuant to section 98 of the LGA 2002, Council adopt Western Bay of Plenty District Council's annual report 22-23. And lastly, that the Chief Executive Officer be delegated authority to make such minor editorial changes as required. So I'd like a mover and seconder for those, please. Councillor Granger. Councillor Thwaites. Is there any debate on that? Councillor Thwaites.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that. I applaud the whole organisation really for the presentation of this, but I just draw your attention to particularly the funding impact statements. There's been a lot of commentary about the Three Waters performance throughout New Zealand, but I would like you to look at the Western Bay's performance, strong surpluses in all 3 of those key Three Water operations where it was made such a political football out of it. Everyone said the system was broken. If this system's broken, I want a piece of this business because this is well run, delivering good results, and it shows that it can stack up if you do it right. So I applaud us, and I think there's room in there to even use some of our strength in the challenging times ahead. But I just wanted to draw attention to that because those are strong results over all 3 in its slightly declining financial contribution period as well. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Thwaites. Is there any further debate? No? Okay, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. So thank you, Leon, and thank you for all your work with our team. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Worship, and my thanks as well. Well, our thanks as well to Azura and Adele and the team, and Councillor Granger and Stewart, I think he was here. We really appreciated the support. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll now move on to item 11.3, which is on page 246. The proposal to lease Waihi Beach Lifeguard Services Incorporated, Bowentown Seaforth Road, South Reserve, submission period closed. So for this, we have Peter Watson, Reserves and Facilities Manager, to take us through this one.
Thank you, Your Worship. We're just checking there should be a few submitters who wish to be heard out in the foyer there. We're just rounding them up to bring them in, and there should be someone online. And then we've got one of the submitters here, Ross Gowdy. Looks like we've got the Makatu crowd here as well. So. That's a lot of Coast Guard labels, isn't it? Yeah. Is Donna on this line?
Yes, there are. There should be, yeah.
Yeah. Yep, I don't know the Melbourne name, but yep. So, Chairman, so we have the people wishing to be heard. The submitters are sitting over to our right. Look, process from here is we've had the report in front of you that's been obviously out in the public as well. I guess the process is that the submitters one by one will put their point of view across in support of their submissions, so that the councillors can consider all of their input before making any ultimate decision on this report. So without further ado, I'd probably just like to start with maybe Ross, would you like to start?
Okay, so we're going to try and keep the speakers to around 5 minutes, and councillors will have an opportunity to ask questions, and I'll underline questions rather than make statements at this point.
Yes, good morning, Your Worship, councillors and all the staff that are attending this meeting. I'm presenting on behalf of the Waihi Beach Community Board today. We were become aware of this issue for the community to discuss after a presentation at the Bowentown Boating Club by the Waihi Beach Surf Lifesaving. We followed this up with presentations and questions at our October Community Board meeting from the Coast Guard, PO's Group and Waihi Beach Surf Lifesaving. So we had a fairly good discussion. I wish to state for the record that the Community Board fully supports, absolutely, the application by the Waihi Beach Surf Lifesaving to have a base down at the Bowentown end of Waihi Beach. At times critical and the necessity for equipment to be down there. Last instance there, it took them 3/4 an hour to get I think it was no, I won't say what sort of boat it was, but it was a boat because somebody had fallen down the rocks down in the channel on the Bowentown heads. Now, on looking at the proposal on the council's website, the Community Board wished to look at trying to avoid conflict with the users in the area with informed consideration of the needs and the thoughts of all who occupy, use the area. A design that considers and reflects this so that we get and overcome that everyone is happy with, and that is an asset for the whole community as a whole. We included the cricket, this includes the cricket ground, the BMX track and the Coast Guard. First looking at the agenda, and that was what was in the agenda on I think the 8th of August, but it was only the Community Board, the PO's Group and the Association, Tana Whenua and general public. Nothing about the Coast Guard at all as interested parties or the campground. Next, we looked at the other options. Now, if you look at the other options, and that's your map I've given you, really, Site 2 and 3 are not an option. They are awkward. They're right up alongside the Coast Guard lease area, and in fact they had to access it off the Coast Guard or bite it further into this BMX track. Even option 3, which was out the front, only gave a very narrow access way to keep off the Coast Guard building area. And I think that's important, that they have a leased area and that shouldn't be impacted by other users. It's essential. And Sam Dunlop from the Coast Guard emphasised that they shouldn't be, other groups shouldn't be running around in their leased area. So what have we got? We've got access and other issues there, and I can understand why some people have been upset about the alternatives being a non-entity. We looked at this if there was a possible site placement and parking without impacting on the Coast Guard lease and any other user in the area. We consider we have found that place and we call that 3A, which is the big one here, and over the page of how it would work. One of the considerations was, I'm told that there is a sewage point and a power point in north of the proposed area. So, and this has been done, is almost to, and Rose has done a good job, to scale. It's not a free drawing, it is as close as we can get to the actual boundaries of everything and all and sundry. And we've put the building as far away from the Coast Guard lease area as possible. And the parking area could be used by both organisations. Looking at the agenda today, it seems comments from other parties outside of the interest affected parties and no submissions now feature, but only for the preferred option. I would have thought that if we were doing the whole thing, we would have had collected comments from other parties that may or may not agree with option one. Now, you must be aware, councillors, that on the 17th December, we received an email saying that overwhelmingly the options were, and I'll leave you to read it for option 3. And
Sorry, Ross, I just noticed on that bit it says 17th of December. That's presumably wrong.
17th of November. Sorry about that.
That's all right,
yes,
thank you.
You're
Sorry.
good at noticing my mistakes, yes.
Carry on.
And we thought, oh, well, it's going to be in the new year. So we're now looking at today. We're concerned that some of the submitters for Site 3 have now been discarded, and the Speaker for the PS Group can go on to deal with this. We, as the Waihee Beach Community Board, wish to process to lay on the table for consideration of the merits or not of option 3A today. Questions?
Any questions of Mr. Gowdy? No? Oh, Councillor Joyce.
Ross, do you feel that the Waihee Beach Community Board has been fully consulted over this? Involved in the process?
It's been a long process, particularly for the Surf Club, about 3 years. And we've sort of known it's been going on in the background, but suddenly it came through in August. And we really, in fact, I was here the day that was supposed to be discussed. Like, to be quite honest, I don't know when it was discussed, but I was here for Stormwater that day. And we had Kerry Dieback and all sorts of other things, and it slipped my attention, per se. We did have a good session on in our October Community Board meeting, but that was on the very last days of, well, past the days of. And I had to put in a prefective submit from the Community Board to say, well, we're looking at this and we will speak to the submission. So I want overall for everyone to be happy and not tread on other users of the area particularly. And I recognise that having the option 2 and 3 were not really, they were not any way reasonable alternatives. So I'm saying that we've developed 3A. Now you can agree or disagree, but we would like that to be considered.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gowdy. If there's no further questions, I think we better move on to the next submitter.
Fine, thank you
Oh,
very
sorry, Councillor Henry, did you want to say?
Can you talk about the procedure at the community board meeting when these plans were presented, about who participated in the discussion at that meeting?
So this is not about the process. This is Mr. Gowdy's submission and what his views on the.
What's related to the plan?
Yeah, but we're going to discuss or can debate the process later. I don't think it's really appropriate at this point to question Mr. Gowdy on a council process.
If I may, Your Worship, this proposal was developed in the time we had to actually try and come up with an alternative if we could. It was made very plain to the community board that it's only the community board's decision. The councillors did not have input to or voted on this proposal. Make it quite clear. No conflicts of interest.
Yep, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Golding. Go on, Councillor Daly.
Ross, just a little bit confusing your diagrams here, but can you confirm, you said option 3 wasn't a good option from your point of view?
Yes.
Just looking at the diagrams, is 3A that's been proposed? It's
In
pretty
the
much,
general area of
pretty much
3.
the same location, but the building's got a different orientation.
No, it's further north in the
Yeah.
thing there.
Further
and
away
there
from the
is-
boundary
Yes.
to give more car parking.
Yes. And
Okay.
it wasn't encroaching on car parking into the Coast Guard area. That bottom red, those bottom red, at the bottom of the page there where the red goes round the corner, the wrangle there, that is the Coast Guard boundary area.
Okay.
So there was a parking area for the surf club outside, and manoeuvrings from the side of their building where things were going on, where the top bended arrow is well away from the Coast Guard area.
And you mentioned that it provided more parking, overflow parking for the Coast Guard as well.
It could do.
Is that something they've expressed an interest in?
Well, we're suggesting that.
Okay.
They work together. And of course, there's always the option of, as part of Site 1, the road reserve could be allocated to, at times, for emergency parking. There could be 6 or 8 along the north side of the road. Won't happen during Christmas, New Year period because that'll be full of cars. But other than that,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Daly. So I think we better move on now.
Yes.
So, Peter, who would you like to bring up next, please?
So next submitter is Peter Roy, who's done his own personal submission, but also, Peter, is it fair to say, because Gary's not here, that you're speaking for the PO Shores Association today as well?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll just wait till the sort of hard copy is given out there. Good morning. My name is Peter Roy, and I'm a teacher at Waihi College and a resident of PO Shores for over 25 years. I'm the chairperson of the PO Shores Sports and Community Association. I'm speaking to the submission made by our group. Firstly, can I say that our association has a history of supporting other community groups in our part of the beach, including Coast Guard, June Care, Predator Free New Zealand, and the Waihi Beach Lifeguards. And they know that we recently provided the funding for a mobile tower that they have been wanting for many years. Our group, PO Shores Sports and Community Association, we are understanding and fully supportive of the lifeguards wanting to establish a base at our end of the beach. So we fully support the concept. When we were made aware of the notified consent process, we let our members know and encourage them to take part in the democratic process. So if you have a look at what I've numbered document 1, which would have been on the top there, you can actually see there how we communicated with our members and let them know what was happening. We asked the members of our community to let us know what was their preferred site, and also if they had made a submission themselves. The results of their feedback is shown on document 2. So you can have a look there at document 2, and you can see the table there. Now, down the left-hand side, there are the names of the members of our community, the local community, who provided us with that feedback. And in the second column, if you look down there, you can see that what I'm saying is correct, that our community is in favour, in principle, with the lifeguards wanting to have a base down our end of the beach. But what you can also see, you will also see that most of the respondents, where it's under option 1, most of the respondents are opposed to option 1, indicated by all the red in that column. Okay? And the community feedback is clearly in favour of option 3. Okay, so you can see in that third column there. So not in favour of option 1, but very much in favour of option 3. The main issue that, we then made our own submission, a copy of which is document 3. So that was the submission from the Pio Shores Sports and Community Association. Okay, so you have a copy of that as well. The main issue that members of our community have with option 1 is that it infringes on the open space and current recreational activities already established on the reserve, namely the cricket oval and the BMX. Much of the proposed 600 square metre site is dedicated for exclusive car parking. I have taught PE at a high school level now for 25 years. And I can say with some experience that the proposed car parks are well within the range of a teenager's ability to hit a cricket ball. Well within. They will land balls in that car park, if not hit the building. Parked cars and cricket balls don't mix. Clearly, the community supports a base for the lifeguards at our end of the beach. And the most preferred option is in the vicinity of option 3, not option 1. We have been provided with a variation prepared by the Waihi Beach Community Board, which has been referred to as option 3A. And you've got a copy of that already, or else I've given you one that's got document 4 written on it. As a committee, we have considered this plan. We've had a look at this option 3A. We understand this plan, option 3A, would meet the stated needs of the lifeguards. Now, I've been along and listened to what the lifeguards have said they wanted, and it would appear to us that it would meet the stated needs of the lifeguards. It would not impact on the Coast Guard's current operation, as I think the previous speaker pointed out, and would be in keeping with the feedback from our community. For these reasons, the Pio Shores Committee fully supports the Community Board's proposal option 3A. We believe this is an option the whole community, including our association, can get behind and fully support. We, the Pio Shores Sports and Community Association, therefore recommend that the Council not grant a lease to the lifeguards at location option 1, pending the development of option 3A for its review through the public consultation process. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any questions for Mr. Wai? No? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Good morning. My name is Robert Donaldson. I'm a resident within the Pio Shores subdivision and also a member of the Pio Shores Associations Committee. My submission addresses two aspects of the proposed surf club building. Firstly, the proposed location of the building, and secondly, the proposed usage and therefore the size of the proposed building. Firstly, while I support in principle a new building for the surf club operations at Bowen Town, I strongly object to the surf club's preferred site, option 1, because it would extend into the existing BMX track and existing cricket area, require the removal of some of the existing Pōhutukawa trees, and increase traffic congestion and therefore present additional hazards to pedestrians and cyclists. My understanding that the application doesn't appear to include a traffic hazard risk assessment nor a traffic management plan. Secondly, as I understand it, the proposed new building would have three functions: short-term life and emergency support functions during the patrol season, short-term storage during the patrol season, and long-term storage out with the patrol season, effectively a storage warehouse for some 9 to 10 months of the year. I fully appreciate the need for a localized facility to deal with the first two functions, but I consider that longer-term storage function would be better dealt with by a facility remote from the Bowen Town Reserve. In conclusion, I would strongly recommend that any new building be located within the vicinity of option 3, or perhaps option 3A as proposed by the Waihi Beach Community Board, that is to the west of the toilet block and not cited at option 1. I would also suggest that the building dimensions be limited to the minimum necessary to meet the declared needs for life support facilities and short-term storage needs. Also suggest that the long-term storage component of the surf club needs to be met by using other more suitable sites around Bowen Town or existing industrial sites at Waihi Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Granger.
Thank you. Have you seen these plans?
I haven't seen the obverse side of it. I've seen the other side of it with the tentative location of 3A. That to me meets most of my objections, with perhaps the exception of the size of the building. I still believe that it's oversized for the current needs of the surf club's operations. I recognise that they do have the need to store their equipment for 9 or 10 months of the year. I still think that that would be better served by storing it in a secure compound off-site away from the foreshore. My opinion.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could identify areas that you thought were superfluous to their needs. But if you haven't seen this, then
I haven't seen that diagram.
fine. Thank you.
Councillor Joyce.
I have a warehouse. I mean, that's my business. The question I have on the long-term storage is it necessarily a different area to the short-term storage, right? Because in the summertime, they need to get in and around the equipment and use it. Then when you pack it away, it might actually be the same space. Could that be possible?
As I understand it, the observation towers that are deployed onto the beach don't need to be stored overnight during the surf patrol season. But during the longer term season, these towers would be brought into the warehouse, if you like, for storage over the off season. So my belief is that those sort of things, the larger items, would be better stored in a compound away from the beach.
I guess my question is, could it be that the winter storage is needed during the summer for other purposes, Right, and so they're effectively using the same space for their winter storage and their summer operations. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a
Councillor,
possibility.
you may well be correct. I think that there's always a tendency for Parkinson's law to apply, that things will have a tendency to expand to fill the space that's available. So to my mind,
Through my warehouse?
yeah, to my mind, working out what's required and designing it for that requirement, and it may well be that that is the case, but I've got no visibility of that design process, so I'm making the comment that those that are responsible for it satisfy themselves that that does in fact meet the perceived
Thank you. I
needs.
hadn't heard of Parkinson's law, and I have to go and apply it to my own warehouse.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions for Mr. Donaldson, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just letting you know I am present, James, from
Yes,
Waihi Beach
yes, Donna,
Lifeguard.
we can see you. I
Yeah,
think
okay.
I think
If you
Rose is
need-
up next.
Yeah, I just wondered if you want questions answered as you go or just wait to my presentation.
No, I think we take it questions of each submitter, not sort of cross-examination.
So do you want me to answer some of those questions or not?
No, you can address those in your submission.
Kia ora, everybody. My name is Rose Fox. I'll give you a little bit of my background. I live at Bowentown. I do not live in the P.O. Shores development. Our family's had a property there for 65 years in the original development at Bowentown, there's quite a few families in that area where the property's still in the same family. I also work as a registered architect. I'm a senior registered architect, and I work on apartment buildings and have done for the last 9 years as project lead and lead consultant, which gives me a background and an understanding of probably over 20 disciplines of consultant engineers that I work with on a regular basis. So when I had a look and when Ross contacted me about looking at these options for where the surf life-saving building might be, I bring quite a lot of professional expertise to that assessment. I was going to try and put the image up on the screen, but you've got them all there. So I was contacted by Ross just to discuss and talk this through, but saw an opportunity to actually make a contribution so that whatever happens on that site is an asset for the community and something that everyone in the community is happy with without any conflict of use, and something that is future-proofed so that the area is not going to undergo a huge amount of growth because there's not a lot of land at the Bowentown end to be opened up for building anymore, some, but not huge amounts. And over the summer, there will be an increase in people who come in from outside, and that will be, of course, supported by the fact of the surf life savings or lifeguards have a good base. It will be more popular than it is at the moment. So I had a look at the options there in terms of feasibility, which is the first thing that we do when we look at something, which is your services and your traffic management and your site and your co-location with everything else, all that kind of thing. My submission was wholeheartedly for Site 1 because I made that submission very early on in the process on the understanding, having looked at it, that Sites 2 and 3 were not really feasible and not preferred. When I went through the exercise of actually stepping back and starting again, if you like, and looking for the most feasible option, it was obvious that Site 3 is the most feasible, however, not exactly in the location that it's shown on the plans, which is impacting on the Coast Guard next door. So what the aim of what I was looking at was to consider how one might put surf lifesaving in that area, not solely from where can we put them, but how do we create a community and emergency hub that actually works cohesively for all the users, and impacting on the Coast Guard parking isn't going to be a cohesive resolution. From talking with Ross, who was talking with everyone else, I've got a lot of stakeholder information now, obviously not everything, but I understand from both Waihi Lifeguards and Coast Guard that additional parking that is required over and above their member parking is somewhere in the order of 15 to 20 something car parks that are required. Now, this is required when people have training or events, either Coast Guard or lifeguards, and in an emergency situation where a whole lot of other emergency services are involved, and all the people who are involved, the friends, the family of whatever might be happening to somebody else. Looking at all those stakeholder needs, therefore, it seemed that if we wanted to create a workable layout, that the ideal thing would be to have this overflow or emergency or additional event parking co-located for both of those parties. Now, whether that means it gets split and leased kind of 50-50 to the two on-site services, or whether it's something council would consider changing the reserve status so that it remains available for emergency services use. So no one goes and builds a playground in it, for instance. So in other words, it's future-proofed space. It's part of my proposal, which is a suggestion or an opportunity, is that both Coast Guard and Surf Lifesaving within their dedicated lease have their dedicated parking, and therefore parking that is over and above that is common, is not dedicated to one or other of those services, but is available for anybody involved in emergency work. I also noted when looking at the feasibility that planning had not been looked at in terms of the circulation, the traffic management, all that kind of thing. So I've looked at that. Feasibility study, services, traffic management, geotechnical, civil. Normally when I do feasibility studies, we have engaged those specialists, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that. So obviously if option 3A was considered as a refinement of option 3 or as an alternative within the area that is supported by the community, overwhelmingly supported by the community, I would recommend that some of that work in terms of feasibility be done prior to granting a lease, because otherwise it's quite a high risk that when it comes in, that information comes in, if there's something untoward, you're a bit stuck really, aren't you? I've also looked on the over page with the bigger scale drawing for opportunities within that building to make it usable for a greater part and portion of the year. And it's not uncommon for surf lifeguard buildings to have some kind of community activity also happening within them. So there are opportunities within that building outside peak surf lifesaving months that there are spaces that could be used by community groups. Now I'm thinking things like perhaps play groups or fitness groups or something like that. There may well be enough storage there So I'm only highlighting that.
Rose,
If
can
we're
we,
looking,
I
yeah,
think
if we're
at the
looking
end of-
for a
end of time.
community hub for emergency, that we can also look a little bit wider and look at it as a community centre also, potentially. But yes, I've done my 5 minutes, haven't I? I'll
Thank
stop
you.
now.
Right, are there any questions for Rose? Councillor Henry.
And looking through the submissions, Rose, you originally were in favour of
Site one.
Yeah. And you're now proposing a different alternative.
Well, I am, as soon as I kind of spent some time looking at it. So site 3A, and to some extent site 3, gives them much better access to the beach for all their equipment, for starters. It seems like a no-brainer kind of location. And it gives them that access away from all other traffic in the area, both pedestrian and vehicle. And that's quite a nice thing. It also, one of the things I thought about site one was the visibility, because it's obviously really important in an emergency situation that people can find the people they need to find. As you can see from the 3Ds there, this site has high visibility and is easily visible, in fact more visible from the beach than it is from the road. So in fact in that respect it's better. So having done further work and investigation, yes, I've changed my mind and this would be my preferred.
Councillor Daly.
Rose, just as a quick aside, you're not prepared to do some gratis work for council as well?
I am. I've worked on a couple of projects. I actually am registered as an architectural practice and pay my insurances to do this voluntary work for the community because I love Waihi Beach. It's kind of where my heart is, and I've been coming here all my life. And my mum grew up in Waihi. My granddad used to have a batch next door, and if I'm going to do voluntary work, it makes sense to do it in the field that I have the skill and experience in.
No, well, that's very good, and I'm sure Ross has got plenty of other projects lined up for you.
Okay, let's give it to questions.
Not really a
do you need more
question, is
questions?
it?
As a result of the study, did you have much discussion with the lifeguard members?
I did. I was asked to do it by the community board, but yes, I did also speak with Donna a couple of times.
And
he did and passed on to me what the discussion had been as well. So it was really Ross.
And you agree with Peter's comments about encroachment on the cricket pitch and the BMX track?
I think that if there's a solution that everybody is happy with, it's going to work well for the community, and I don't think that there's any need to be trampling on anyone who's an existing user. There's an option there that actually supports the people who are already using it. Yeah.
And just finally, you did change the orientation of the building compared to what council had proposed.
I did.
Was that mainly to get better views of the sea, or what was the reason for that?
No, I ran a circulation diagram and a little bubble diagram for program, and if you've got your main traffic route or track through to the beach, you really want to come across your doors for your storage easily. Also, if you're coming, so I also looked at public and private space and where everyone would arrive and how they would arrive. And so the front door is facing the road. The patrol room where people can go off duty is facing the beach. There's an opportunity for lifeguards who are employed to stay there, and that would be up to Surf Life Saving if they want to take that opportunity off. This is just a proposal or an exploration. That's away from the beach and slightly more private, and there's an opportunity to have a kind of club courtyard out the end where they can socialise in peace and not be part of the public realm except the few people who walk through the park. So I looked at site-specific planning.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. If there are no further questions, I think we'll thank you. Thank you, Rose, for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's going to be very interesting, isn't it?
Yes, Chairman, before we perhaps invite ex-Councillor Sam Dunlop up who represents the Coast Guard. He's the president of the Way Beach Volunteer Coast Guard, and it'd be worth hearing their point of view on the proposal. And we also have Donna online who would like to, I guess, respond to some of the issues raised by the previous speakers. But I also just wish to draw the committee's attention to page 249 of the agenda, where I've pointed out that this option 3.3A being considered has been developed after the submissions have closed. So it's kind of outside the original consultation process with the community, so that needs to be noted. And whilst appreciating the intent of the alternative approach, I had an on-site meeting with both the lifeguards, Representative Donna, and through with the President, Mr. Dunlop, to review this proposal, because my understanding, they hadn't seen it at that point in time, and I thought it important to address that as part of this process today. So I'll let them speak to their viewpoints on that, but the conclusion I got from that meeting was that 3A was not their preferred site, and that for the reasons outlined in my report.
Okay, I think we'll move on to the to hearing Donna and Sam, and Councillor Henry, you'll have time to question Peter when he takes us through the full report.
Point of order.
There's a point of order.
Yeah, because as you're pointing out, another point of order.
So which standing order are you addressing, Councillor Henry?
This is acting like a hearing, in my mind. The Coast Guard never made a submission, so, and I'm happy to hear from them, but they didn't make a submission, so don't, you're asking them to be able to speak now.
No,
where they haven't.
no, that's, I was asking the chairman about providing an opportunity.
Yeah,
If the chairman doesn't wish to do that, that's the chairman's choice to do that.
Yeah, but then we're just making a point that they didn't make there, so you're asking for something additional.
There is no formal submission from the Coast Guard, that is correct. However,
I'm happy to hear it.
Very much an affected party.
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Dunlop speak for himself on that one, but I think it's fair to say they felt they were an affected party rather than a submitter on this one. So with that, I'll let Peter introduce whichever one you want to do next.
Yes, Sam Dunlop can speak first, and then Donna, you're next up.
Your Worship, councillors, staff, thanks for the opportunity. I always, as is my way, expected I had a right to speak. We are the most affected party, and we have supported and been part of the Waihi Beach Surf Lifesaving submission from the beginning. And we've got a very good working relationship with them. Probably to start, I was out at the Waihi Volunteer Coast Guard building, and Chairman Gowdy and Councillor Henry were there and approached me to clarify several things, including building a new shed to house a new boat, which was all news to me. And we had a discussion about the surf life-saving proposal, and I explained very clearly that we had a long-standing expression of interest in the whole of that area there, because it was absolutely vital to our future and to our operation. And that's the area, it's bollarded off if you know it. As a result of that, I was asked to attend the next Waihi Beach community meeting to inform the board. Unfortunately, Councillor Sol was on sick leave, but I again outlined how we supported what is your option one for many reasons. And the main one was that to encroach on any of the area that we had available would be to compromise our future. And just on that parking area and the expression of interest, the understanding with Mr. Watson is that he knew about it, he knew our concerns, and if anything arose which he didn't foresee, he would deal with it at that time. I was later contacted by Chairman Gowdy with an artist's proposal, and I was very angry that management would do that, but he told me no, it was a member of the public I now know as Rose, and your work's very professional. I wish I'd been part of your brief. Obviously, if Mr. Watson had been included at this point, he could have advised them of the effects of that proposal. And I told Chairman Gowdy that the proposal would compromise both Coast Guard and surf access as parking in the summer's diabolical. The idea that you've got there leaves us with 9 parks. We have 12 to 30 at training every week. And if we have an incident, we require up to 40 parks. If you know Waihi Beach in the summer, it's terrible down at that end. And 6 years ago, Alex Finn, the roading manager here, saw fit to put yellow lines and parking signs to try and protect our access to the beach. And the access bit probably for Rose's benefit, that Site 1, surf don't only go to the beach, surf go to Anzac Bay, surf go to Pio Shores, they do shoreline searches. That's a far better place for them to leave from. Donna will probably talk to that.
Mr. Dunlop, can I just clarify just for a quick in here? Are you referring to option 3A or option 2 and 3?
I'm talking, as I understand it, option 1 is the one on Seaforth Road.
Yes, but you're saying the one that leaves you with not many car parks. Are you referring to option 3A?
3A, yes,
Right,
the one that's by the toilets, the northernmost one.
Thank you.
I think that's, yeah? Yeah, cool. So that, even I spoke to, when Ross and Anne were out there, I said, well, there does look like an area of waste beyond our area of interest, and perhaps there. And I read in your thing that you moved it 20 metres south, which again would compromise our thing. Yeah. So the other thing, I've never been contacted by anybody from Pio Shores as to our interest in that area. But I'll tell you that 3 proposal would severely compromise our future and also our ability to respond in an emergency. And some emergencies have, well, quite a few result in both surf and Coast Guard going out together. And then the parking is an issue, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so questions for Mr. Dunlop. Councillor Crawford.
How many calls would Coast Guard, your Coast Guard facility attend to in a calendar year?
Rescues or
just,
real emergency?
you know, like
rescues we probably average one a week.
Call to respond, yeah.
Yeah, one a week. And probably 4 or 5 really serious ones. I'm talking about people in the water, alive or dead.
Right. And other usage that requires you to use the facility? I guess training would be one of them.
Yeah, well, the training, as I said, most trainings we have between 12 to 30. We've got 30 wet crew and 14 radio operators. That's in the volunteers. Members, 560. But the usage of the building is volunteers. We do make it available to, I think, the Pio Shores. As they said, they are involved in the community. I think they use our building periodically, I think. We did run a incident management search and rescue exercise there 2 weeks ago, and we had units from Whangamata, Tauranga, and Thames even decided to come over. And when those are being run, well, I think I put a photo of the car park somewhere. It's full, the whole area. If we were restricted to our legal footprint, I doubt whether we'd get cars in, because it's quite narrow coming past our fuel area. And in an emergency, you've only got to get one person rush in and leap out of their car and go, and that access could be blocked. So it is serious. We have a reaction where if there's a police emergency, the first master, and we have six of us, I think, the first master there takes the boat as soon as he has crew. And the reaction time then can be between 3 and 7 minutes. We can have a boat on the water. Coast Guard, Surf, if they had a building down there that they could house an IRB in, and they need a building. We've tried last summer, we tried putting a container there for them, and it got so hot inside it exploded the pontoons on their IRB. So it needs a reasonable building for them to house equipment. And Donna will probably talk to it, but it's a 12-month housing. I mean, they were out getting some people off the cliff just a month or so ago. It's winterish. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to see, because in my mind is, you know, we've heard the word about how the two agencies can work together and share common space. So are you saying maybe, you know, if they include you in the conversation, you could have worked that out?
We need more space. We're in the throes of dealing with this august body to try and put a shed in the backyard. And it's not easy. And the other thing that you may consider when you're looking at it is option 1 on this would put Surf outside coastal zone, all those really expensive, would cost them $20,000 or $30,000 in consents to build in that area. If they're out on the road, I think they're 1.5 meters outside the coastal zone, and they have fibre, water, power, all of the things are there, so it would be expedient. And just my last little throwaway is that park is still the same size as Eden Park.
Thank you. Councillor Thwaites, and then I've got Councillor Granger and Councillor Henry. So Councillor Thwaites.
Morning, Sam. You've probably largely answered it. You touched on up to 40 cars. Can I just get you to clarify where exactly, when you have 40 cars turn up, where do they currently park now?
They park in there on that reserve that our footprint bounds over towards the toilet. If you have a look past our building to the toilet, there's a lot under the trees there. There's a large area.
Yeah.
So we'll go right round there. If the police are there, sometimes they'll park in the front of the building, but we can have 9 police there as well as our, 18 or 20 odd. But I don't think what's understood by the members of the public is that when we have a serious exercise, it's run by Hamilton Police, and Search and Rescue and Maritime New Zealand are also involved. So that there is this influx of outsiders who generally have to drive there. There is no other way. And it's quite a disguised entrance that we have at the moment. And we have plenty of signage up to stay out. But, we had to get those lines put in so our tractor could get to the beach. That's great, not a lot of public down there, very popular. That's why Surf should be down there.
Okay, I'm keen to move this along, if that's all right, Councillor Thwaites. Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Your Worship. So what is Coast Guard's future designs for that area? You said you wanted it for what?
Well, we don't know where the public expansion, or the numbers. Waihi Beach goes from something like used in my days in here, it was 1,500 residents to 25,000 summer crowd. And I think that's probably doubled now. So we might, our current boat's 9.5 metres. It fits into our building very well. If we have a change in boundaries or operating area, we might have to go do like Makatu. They run over 11 or 12 metre boat, and get further out to sea. So that is an issue. At the moment, we think we're fine for our building. We're certainly worried about parking, and we need a shed to optimise our room at the moment. We've got to open doors to get round gear in the shed. So, you know, we've got 3 vessels there and a side-by-side for getting around. So it's future-proofing, your word, I think. That's what we're really worried about, because they don't make land out there anymore. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Henry then, please.
So, Sam, I am concerned, I am sorry that you've had to wait so long for your answer about your parking, and that this situation has arisen in such a forced and disjointed way. And what my question to you is, and I did hear it was 27 parks that you were acquiring. You talked about your footprint.
No fixed park, and we...
For your overflow. Roundabout. Okay, well, the question is, how many parks are in your fixed footprint? How many car parks do you have in there already?
Looking at the Rose's diagram, I think she's drawn 11 on there.
Yeah.
But that's...
It's not the case.
No, you wouldn't get 11 there, because I think she's got 4 on the access, 4 parks there.
Have a look at it.
And from memory, I think I'm fine. No, that's good. Okay. So this one there. So it's very narrow and angled, that footprint. And if you see on the way in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles there, well, that would be 2 at best, because there's a wall along on the right-hand side that drops down to our wash yard.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that and saying maximum of 9, knowing where our footprint boundary is, and that would be a fixed. You know, it's going to be a fenced.
Yeah. So today, this decision is not going to be made. It's not on the agenda.
That's fine. I'm just
And
very
so,
keen that you.
You've got a decision, yes or no. But would you see opportunity to be able to work in a joined up way, which hasn't happened? Would be
Towards what end? And we're pretty.
Well, you're pretty adamant on your.
On the area required?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because in summer there is just nothing left. So we could, we'd be bringing, 20 people out there in a flat out emergency. And there was that nasty one 3 or 4 years ago when we were both involved. And with all the summer parking, there is nothing available for emergency people unless it's protected. So, and we have no issue with surf if they have them tearing into our park and leaping out and going for it. That's not a concern, but I do think
Councillor's job is very hard when you try to...
Okay, let's not go into comments. I think we better move on. So Councillor Joyce and then Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Sam, thanks for coming in. So I hear your concerns around future-proofing and car parking. I guess the question I have is, and you mentioned before, it would have been good if you'd got a brief, Rose got a brief from you. Is there room for more discussion?
Oh, absolutely, and I think Donna would be wide open to it, but we've got a bottom line.
Oh, for sure, you need space, and believe me, we don't want to get in the way of you guys rescuing people. Yeah. No one does. So that's my question is, if there's an opportunity for more discussion, would that be welcome to try
100%.
and find something that makes everybody happy?
I'd love to brief Rose so that she can draw some of these in the right place.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Quite early in your presentation, you spoke about how this option 3A would compromise both Coast Guard and surf lifesaving.
Yes.
And you commented quite extensively in regard to Coast Guard.
Yes.
I just wondered if you're able to elaborate a little bit on the negative aspects as you see it for the surf club.
Well, and I'm quite happy to speak for Donna because she can't reach
I
me.
think we better let Donna speak for herself on that one.
I know. That's why I'm firing a shot there.
Donna would have heard
I think, so I'll round this out with a very simple question from me. Does option 2, 3 or 3A impinge on your operational abilities?
Yes.
Right. And just secondly, having following on from Councillor Joyce's question, are there any immediate areas that you think could be worked on in future for an alternative? Was that if that's an unfair question, I'm happy to maybe.
No, I'm just sorry, I haven't quite grasped it.
So Councillor Joyce asked if further discussion was possible.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that. I just wondered is there an area that could work for you that springs to mind?
Well, the option 1 here is just so practical to me. And, and I realise I would love to have had some discussion with the PO Shores people because, the footpath's only 23 metres away and that building will be 43. So perhaps, and there's 60 metres of reserve right along Seaforth Road, still under scrub. Expensive, I don't want to lump that on Peter, but, maybe the park can be realigned, but you can't realign that area over there because it will be, I don't think the word's emasculated, we'll be hamstrung. That's more polite, isn't it?
Right, okay. I'm really keen to move on. If there's a final question, and keep it brief, Councillor Granger and Daly.
Oh, yeah.
Please keep it brief.
My question was for Peter, if I can.
Okay, we'll come back to that later. Councillor Daly?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Sam and Donna, if I can. In the background, it says extending and sharing the existing Coast Guard facility at Sam Reserve Site has been considered, however, based on space requirements due to the quantity of equipment that is required to be stored. This option is not suitable for either party, but it seems like that does seem like a reasonable option because it does open up more car parking. You haven't got constraints around the building. You just make that building a bit bigger. It's in the right site. Is this something that you would consider, Sam? Or is it you that's ruled that out?
I think, in the interest of brevity, he said that 3A impinges on operational ability.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think we're
happy to discuss it.
I think we better move this on. So thank you, Mr. Dunlop.
Yes, thank you,
and
Your
I
Worship.
think Peter better ask Donna to come in and talk, please.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay.
So please do go ahead, Donna.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I'll just do a very quick recap on some of the misinformation that's been shared today so that we're very clear on the purpose of the building first and then location will come. So the desire started at 2 levels. One is our 24th patrol at Bowentown. We've shared the Coast Guard building, we've shared the camping ground and we've tried shipping containers. We have lifeguards working 8 to 10 hours a day, have nowhere to go for their off time. They have no shower to go other than public. They've got no first aid room. That's why we wanted to start this building. And the second level was our 24/7 call-out squad. We did 22 search and rescues not associated to patrol in the last 2 summers. And there's a 29 to 35 minute delay driving a boat, a jet ski or a vehicle towing a boat to Bowentown, and that's costing too much time when people are in the water. So we want to have our call-out squad with a second location. So no, it's not only for a few weeks of the year, it's actually 365 days of the year. And our call-out squad would have a UTV with a jet ski on it. They'd have a vehicle with a IRB on it. We would have a first aid room, a meeting room, a shower block. So it is a complete unit for us to operate at either patrol or call-out squad. And I think that we can ascertain that we've done 4 call-outs in the Bonetown area in the last 7 weeks. 3 of them were serious, 1 not so. So it's not a matter of is it possible, it's actually just a matter of when. For us, we chose location 1 for sheer operational use. We knew that it complemented the Coast Guard, and we are a very united team. So that's why option 1 is ours. We wanted it in that very close to the road so we can actually head in different directions. It's got good beach access that we can use around the tar seal through the car park or through the grass area. Option 2 was taken off the table because there is actually a sewage line underneath it. So when we had the topographical report done, option 2 really had to be removed for a lot of reasons. And option 3, because that is close to the Coast Guard and that is not their desire, that's why we're in this position right now, really. The last thing that has happened since we started this process is the flooding that we've been subjected to at the northern end. We realised that we need to run a separate hub, which is fully equipped so that we could run our total patrol, our total club could be run out of the Bonetown end if we got hit again at the northern end. And so that's actually now built into our adaptation plan, is the Bonetown hub as part of our ongoing strategy. We've also looked at making sure that the building is, coded correctly for other emergency services to use it. It's actually a dismantleable building in case we do get completely inundated and the shoreline does move. So we've taken the process around what does it look like for the next 25 to 50 years for our business, and this is why we've ended up in this position.
Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, questions are probably better. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for your nice and short presentation, but submission. So are there any questions for Donna? Councillor Daly.
Donna, you would have heard my question to Sam, if you could comment on that, but also after hearing everything this morning, is option 1 still your preferred option?
Yeah, without a doubt. And to be just internally focused, the reason being from, say, a St. John's point of view, talking with them, and we work as much as we work with Coast Guard, we work really closely with St. John's. We need a driveway that actually handles a 3-ton truck. So what we have not priced into our funding any long driveways or any work that would need to be done to make sure that the St. John's could easily enter our building. And so option 1 is straight off the road. That was one of the great desires. And just the way that we operate with our UTVs and rescue boats, it's just accessing whether we're going to go down via the beach because it's that time of the day. Are we going to go via Anzac, or do we need to do something else? So it's just so close to all of our options. So operationally, that's why we've chosen number 1.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Joyce.
You're aware, obviously, of the concerns, and you've heard them again this morning from some of the local residents. Is it worth, and you've also seen it, obviously, because you're dialing in, you may not have a copy of Rose's work.
Yes, no, I do.
You do, okay. Yeah, is there room for further discussion to try to find something that makes everybody happy? I mean, it's got to meet your needs. I think everybody said today they want you to be happy, and we want Coast Guard to be happy. But is it worth further discussion, to try to find something that suits everybody?
From my point of view, we have been unable to get this summer sorted. So 3 years ago when we started, we did think that by now we would have a hub, and we don't. So yes, just discussion, absolutely. We're not a closed situation. It's just we can't keep delaying it, because are we all going to live comfortably with ourselves if we take 22 minutes to get to someone who drowned in the last 15 minutes and when we should have been there because we can't be at that end? That's the question on the table, really. But we're not a closed organisation. We're very much open to discussion. But I just want to reiterate, number 1 though is still our preferred, but definitely happy to keep talking to get united front. But it's just we need to probably understand what our needs are. I think it's not a storage shed. Okay, it's not something that we are just doing because we want to build a shed. It's actually a call-out squad, lifeguard patrolling hub.
No, it's been very useful, your comments this morning. I mean, so if you'd got the go today, would you be up and running this summer?
Yeah, I've got another risk on my hands, which I know that this doesn't really need to worry you guys, but all the funding that we've gathered, we have timelines in which we can use it. And so we're getting closer and closer to have to ask for permission to hold on to it. So our plan's already done, we just can't submit until location, yeah.
So if there was going to be further discussion, obviously you wouldn't want it to take too long. So,
No.
So how long could it take? Do you think reasonably?
Well, in our business plan, we were thinking that we'd be breaking ground by 1 March. Now, if that got pushed out to like 1 April or maybe even 1 May because there is some further work to be done, I understand that, but I wouldn't want to see it go too much further.
Thanks for that.
Any more questions? Oh, sorry, Councillor Solid. Yes, I did see that. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Donna, very good. Thank you that you're still prepared to look, and thanks very much for the answer to the former question there as to maybe how far you can stretch some of this, owing to funding, etc. as well, and just wishing to get on with the job. My question basically is, and it's partially been touched on, the fact that you're prepared to talk further and discuss it further with the involved parties is one part, but also the suggestion that maybe there is room still within that reserve boundary. Are you prepared to look at something within that as well?
I'm just not sure that I understand that question. So you're talking about 3A as an option, or you're talking about other locations?
I'm talking about other parts of that, maybe closer to the corner or the bend where Seaforth Road actually turns towards the Coast Guard building, and some of that treed, swampy area, which is, yes, not exactly a choice area, but maybe there's ways of working with it. I'm just asking whether you're prepared to look at other potential sites.
The reason we looked at those sites was sheer cost, okay? Because both site 1 has the services right there, so we wouldn't be up for large financial input to get the services operational. We got some costings to be in other areas, and it was just a horrendous amount of money.
So I think one thing I'd like to get clear, so others have mentioned it about the possibility of talking further, and I appreciate that both you and Sam are, of course, able to talk, because to not talk would be odd. But in terms of this process has been going for 3 years, and presumably you've looked at all kinds of sites already, and that I'm just not clear that an extra month or two over summer is going to yield a sudden solution that you hadn't thought of before.
No,
I mean, your comments on that.
Yeah, look, I think that, Rose has put a lot of work into evaluating it from another view. So, I'm living very close to it with our board. I think that we've got our desires over operational, and there's probably a thing that's come out of all of this is that people actually don't understand what we do. So that's our responsibility to get the public to understand the pressures on lifeguarding as much as Coast Guard has. So as much as everyone's worried about a building, I'm worried about us unable to perform at a level that would be expected to save lives. So I've got a bit of a conflict going on in our organisation, is that we just need to solve this, and everyone else is more concerned about possibly the look of a building. Mr. Donaldson's saying that it's too big, and I'm not sure that he understands our needs, and that's what concerns me the most. That's the delay that I don't want.
Okay, thank you, Donna. I think we'll round it out there, and thank you for appearing and your submission. I'd like to move on to sort of the presentation of the report proper, as it were, and so I'll hand over to Peter Watson, and he can just sort of bring a bit more perhaps context and the procedure from now on.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, look, so you've heard the submitters, the points raised. You've heard about option 3A, which came in after submissions closed, but it's being considered today, which is, I guess, democracy and work. and you've heard from the applicant and the most affected party being the Coast Guard. They've advised that there is some scope for some further discussion. However, the report, which was originally went out and was adopted back in in August, was for option 1. That's what we went out to the community with, and that's what the report refers to as being the preferred option of the lifeguard. So I guess from a process point of view, the options for council are to look at either approving or declining the application for a lease on the site. That's where that is. Yeah, that's where we're at.
So questions of Peter, Councillor Song?
I actually,
Is that Mike?
sorry, I, sir, don't even feel that we should be going down the questions. To me, there are so many issues in this that I believe that we should be looking at, that we have a existing tenant who has concerns, and I think that's got to be one of our early priorities, is people that we already lease land to in that space. We have another service that wants to get into that space and needs to be able to do so. They both have operational issues, and their operational processes are to do with saving life. We have another organisation that actually has facilities in this reserve area. There are just too many issues in here that have not actually really come to this council in a form that actually has been worked through properly and clearly, and there's too many other issues there. And I believe, sir, that we should be considering, instead of continuing with this debate, considering letting it lie upon the table.
That was more of a comment than a question, but I appreciate your comments. I think one thing that I would like to mention is that I'm concerned that this process is it's been an attempt to turn this into a concept planning process, and telling the applicant and the affected party what they need. I think that's entirely the wrong approach. It's an application for a lease, which we're here to either adopt, accept, or decline, or potentially on the table. But to sort of try to go through a concept planning process, I think is the wrong one. We've heard that the applicant and the affected party are happy with option 1. We've heard that other people are not so keen on that, and that's the decision that we must make. But I don't think this is a try to tell them what they need sort of approach. I think that'd been entirely wrong. But I'm going to hand back to Peter to carry on with any other questions. Yeah,
We had a couple of comments, but I just want to ask a question. How come Council Officer wrote to submitters a few weeks ago saying this wouldn't be considered till next year, and then 2 weeks after that the agenda pretty much closed off? The letter says there are a large number of lease submissions, strong preference for option 3. We need to have a further look at this. We're not going to look at it this year. And then suddenly it does come back. So what changed between that letter being sent out by a council officer and 2 weeks later this at the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, yes, that was an issue, and that email going out, that was probably could have been some better communication on my behalf. What had happened was I'd received the proposal from the chairperson of the community board regarding Rose Fox's proposal 3A. I was conscious of the funding needs and the timeframes put on to the Surf Lifesaving Club about needing to move forward or lose funding opportunities, and hence I moved quicker on that and was able to get through to a point where we could then put the report up and meet the agenda deadlines, which is what I achieved. So either way, I think we've ended up at the same spot where all submitters have had the opportunity to be heard, and the due process has been followed under the Reserves Act process. So.
And the other question is, the community board is trying to find a solution, right? And obviously haven't got all the information in front of them, and there's been more information given today, which is very helpful. Is there a better way to work with the community board on projects like this, so that actually they're involved earlier on and are more a part of the process, so that, you know, I take the point about people putting in concept plans without being asked, but, you know, this is a community looking for a solution that suits everybody. And you know, there just seems to be that the community board's been doing its thing and the council staff been doing their thing. Is there a better process we could follow in the future to make sure that we're more joined up?
I mean, from my point of view, this is a council process. This is not a community board process. And it is absolutely right that the community board advocate and express their views and share the views of the community they represent. But in terms of the process, this is council, as in us, council's process, where we hear submissions and the views. And I think the way that the community boards tried to do concept plans, I don't think that's quite the right approach. I mean, I applaud the effort there, but it's I'm not sure that's quite.
So you're aware in the Local Government Act it says the community board has oversight over council operations?
No, they do not, and that is a misquote that you
Oh, okay.
say several times. It's an overview rather than oversight, which is a slight difference. Okay, so they have an overview. They have an overview of the council operations, and they're doing that. And I'm absolutely happy that Ross came and presented and submitted. That is absolutely right. But this is a council process. Peter, do you want
if I could just comment on that. So it's the full council that is the administrating body of the reserve. Okay, if they cannot delegate that down to any committee, individual, whatever, it must be the full council that does the hearings. So this is a council process, and we've followed the Reserves Act process to the letter in this case.
I'm not questioning the Reserve Act's process. I'm just thinking, you know, before it got to this, it could have been, you know, involving the community a bit more before we even got to the August meeting, frankly.
True. Well, there have been lots, when this initially came through, I gave a commitment to the Lifeguard Service, to the PA Shores Group, and to the Coast Guard as local people and as affected parties. And there have been on-site meetings right from the conceptual phase, which then looked at the options. Tongue Defender have been involved, the PA Shores Group had a representative there, and Coast Guard. So there's been a lot of work over the last 2 or 3 years on this, building up to this point. And everyone has had the same opportunity through the 1 month statutory process to do submissions, as opposed to processes happening outside of that process.
Okay. Councillor Daly, do you have a question?
Peter, you just sort of alluded to it, but I'm just wondering why the Coast Guard didn't make a submission when you say you've been talking to them. Were they aware of the submission period? I've got another question too after that.
Well, I can't speak for the Coast Guard why they didn't make a submission themselves, but I think, if I recall, Sam Dunlop did allude that he had taken the view that they were an affected party, which is what we were treating them as, because this proposal wrapped all around their lease area. So that was just a given that they would be around the table on that discussion. So whether they've chosen to do a formal submission or not, it was their choice.
Okay. And my second question, as I've asked Sam and Donna, the conclusion in the background about not extending and sharing the existing facility, it sounds like Sam is open to that idea, and it just seems like there's a good opportunity for community groups to work much better together. It's something we do in Te Puke actively, and I'm just wondering, is it purely the size and the space that limits this, or it just seems that there is a possibility here?
Through your worship, so you will recall Mr. Dunlop talking about they're in the process at the moment trying to put yet another shed onto their property, and have run into a lot of consenting issues being in the coastal setback zone and costs, etc., which is where option 3A sits as well, and we've run into similar things. As Rose said, you could look at that site and issue a lease, but then find that through archaeological issues, geotech issues, setback stuff, it may not be an achievable outcome. That due diligence has been undertaken, in my view. So the actual Coast Guard are looking to expand their stuff now, and they have worked together in the past with the Surf Life Saving Club, where the Surf Life Saving Club have had IOBs literally rammed in, so they had to pull everything out before they can get a tractor out, and then when they got a bigger boat for Coast Guard, then they said, look, sorry, we just can't accommodate you anymore. So that's when they went across the road to the campground. And then that's been okay for a little bit, but then that's no longer suitable. And then last year I agreed to, we had an agreement in place, licensed to occupy, for a shipping container as an alternative means of trying to accommodate the needs, operational needs of the lifeguards. As was alluded to, they get so hot that the IRBs literally explode.
Finally, so what you're saying is that Coast Guard's aspirations mean that we are likely to get a request for an expansion project that's going to require all those expensive resource consent fees in the future.
The point of difference with Coast Guard, they have an area of a leased area, which you'll see in some of those pictures, and they can do buildings within, they've already have a lease with council in there. So when they do a building extension in there, it's not something that comes back to council, it's something that comes to myself for sign off, because it's allowed for within the lease, so you've made that decision. If they wish to extend and formally lease their car park area, and I have an arrangement in place at the moment with the Coast Guard on the use of that car park, and if they want to extend that lease, then we'd be going through the same process of advertising intention to alter a lease as we just did with Moore Park, Kitty Kitty.
Councillor Wickers.
Yeah, so just after hearing all this, I think option one imposes on the BMX track and the cricket pitch. Is there a way of solving that problem that allows option one to go ahead without impacting on existing use?
Right, so in the proposal, the impact on the BMX track has been allowed for, and it's been allowed for in the business case of the lifeguards and their costings. And some of their members, it's their children who use that BMX track and been involved. So they're willing to do what they need to do to realign that there. With regards to the cricket, I do note in the PA Shores submission on item on page 3 of one they provided. So that's an image that I prepared and sent out to the community board chair as an understanding. And however, that image has been altered because the measurements that I had on it, which is all those measurements there, which demonstrated the distances that a cricketer, keeping in mind this is not a competitive cricket venue, could hit a ball. And so the nearest obstacle to the current situation is 22 metres, has been explained before. So anyone walking through there on that footpath is at risk of being hit by the cricket ball when it's playing. I'm not too sure whether cricket is being played with tennis balls, rubber balls, plastic or leather, so that's what happens there. But the distance to that image that I've shown on that red image there is about 39 metres, but I've allowed for a margin of error because that is an imposed thing that isn't orthographically corrected. So what I'm saying is that the minimum issue of cricket at the moment is restrained by the 22 metres thing, and we're talking about potentially 40 metres to the edge of this car park that's been proposed. Any person, good teenager that can hit a ball to the gully or short, long, whatever, are often going to be putting those balls into that swamp if that's the case. Any 6s or 4s are probably going to go into those swamps there too. So I think that the cricket pitch wicket for which the council owns the concrete base and which the PA Shores paid for the surface on top, and that there's an agreement, and Peter's quite correct in saying that, that the purpose, I still believe, in my professional opinion, that it's fit for purpose for some casual summertime cricket or go out for a hit around with a family friend or a couple of groups of families. I think it still remains functional with proposal option 1.
Thank you. Councillor Henry.
We had talked today about the traffic management, foot and vehicle management around that area and the need for a hazard assessment and a management plan. I don't believe there's one being done. Am I correct?
I'm not aware of a formal
so do you,
traffic management assessment being done, but I'm not too sure that it's the need, it's been triggered there. And at the time of applying for a building consent, then that may be raised. But given the amount of vehicles on that site, and I guess the rights of that property, that title to have access to it, it's something to be considered. It is a busy time of year, as we know, around camping time. We've had issues in the past. We had to put the yellow lines down because there's risk of the Coast Guard tractor being blocked getting to emergency response through Anzac Bay. So there has been some traffic stuff addressed there. It's a busy time. The only, well, I guess a good thing, sometimes the more busy it is, the more calming the traffic it is as well.
I think I'd also just raise to Councillor Henry that recommendation 5 notes that any lease that might be granted does not guarantee any other consents required by policy or bylaws or regulations, etc., will be forthcoming. So
Correct.
that is a separate issue, and yeah, to be considered a separate basis. Okay, with questions over, we have a number of recommendations there. What I'm going to suggest is that we move recommendations 1 and 2, which is the receiving the report and the significance engagement, and then we can debate the granting of the lease separately. So can I have a mover and seconder to receive the report and the significance and engagement, please? Councillor Henry, Councillor Joyce. I assume there's no debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Okay, so we now look for a mover for option 3, and I guess we'll go 3 and 5, and we'll see where that ends with that. So can I have a mover and seconder for the option 1, preferred option? Is there one there? Councillor Granger. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour. Is there any debate? Councillor Joyce.
So we've got 3 groups in the community, and we have a clear need for this facility, and we need to protect the Coast Guard, and we need to make sure that Surf Life Saving has appropriate facilities. All 3 groups are willing to have further discussion. So why would we push ahead and not give them the chance to do that? You know, there are issues with all the proposals. I personally think the PO Shores group has got a big task because, you know, the things raised by Surf Life Saving, you know, today by Donna are very important. But yeah, everybody's willing to talk. So I don't quite know why we need to press on with this against that willingness to talk. It doesn't hurt anybody. You know, it will hurt if it goes on too long. And so I think, you know, if we can talk, put a time limit on it, see if the community can come up with a compromise that suits everybody over summer, then let's do it. You know, why do we need to press ahead? What's the pressing need to make a decision today when the Coast Guard, the Surf Life Saving and the PO Shores people are all willing to talk further? How is that community led? You know, I get it, 3A is not ready for the big time. It's definitely not. Right? It's in the way of Coast Guard, has issues for Surf Life Saving. But that was born of a process that they felt they weren't getting anywhere in. And I realise it's a formal process and it's under the Reserves Act, and I realise everything's been followed appropriately by the staff. But if everybody's willing to talk further out in the community, why aren't we? Is what I would say. Put a time limit on. End of January, you know, get together the 3 groups, try and sort something out. Obviously, Peter's got to be involved because it's his reserve and he's got to protect the general public's interest. The community board could be involved. Just have a bit of a round table. You know, we've heard so much today about, oh, well, you know, so-and-so's talked to this person, but not that person. You know, Sam's point, I wish I'd given Rose my brief as part of that process, you know. So we haven't got to where we need to get to. And why push it? Why push it to upset people when there's a better way ahead?
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Councillor Sull.
Thank you, sir. Yes, basically I endorse those comments. To me, why would we proceed with something where we could get it wrong, whichever choice we make, when we've got an opportunity, maybe late in the day, that's come along and we've got a willingness to try and get a good end result. To me, for us to go and make a decision on this and that's it, and then find basically we've made a real dog of a job purely because that's what's in the papers, is just totally wrong. Get it, do the work properly, get it right the first time. To me, is the situation there. There are too many ifs and buts. I actually also, over the period, looked up things about cricket pitches and about social cricket pitch requirements, etc. You know, so I've looked at those boundaries, and I've had a lot to do with cricket in my lifetime. Again, funny, I have a lot to do with numbers of things, but that's another one. And relatively, parts of it, as has been expressed, of the boundaries are actually don't really meet the requirements even for social cricket. So, and then other parts, as I've been told without digging into it, although I'm familiar with Eden Park, which has extremely short boundaries. I think Pukakura Park's about the only other one that plays international cricket on that is shorter. They are an issue as well. But I believe there are ways we can mitigate that too, if option one winds up being the chosen place. But at present, I believe we've got 3 organisations in particular that need to sit down and have a good chance to have a look at this again, have the time limit. If they can't do it, then, or what they come up with or whatever is what they have. If it's not suitable, then council needs to make a decision and just get on with it. But there has got to be a better way.
Thank you, Councillor Sol. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
I have to say I'm very sympathetic to the 2 previous speakers, and I noted Councillor Joyce's final comment was, why push it when there's a better way ahead? However, I have to say that having listened to all the discussion and information and the report that's before us today, I struggle to see where there is an opportunity to, as Chairman Gowdy said in his report, that everyone is happy with. Some of us were privileged to go to a site yesterday and heard about how people submitted against a proposal 20 odd years ago and still remain implacably opposed to that today. And it's really sad that this seems to present a situation where it seems incredibly difficult to find a solution that everybody is happy with. I would love to think that there's a better way ahead, but I don't have confidence that I can see that opportunity, and I fear that delaying it just makes life more difficult for the Surf Lifesaving Club. And they do such important work, and particularly for clumsy people like myself who seem more intent on sinking than swimming, we really depend on good people like this, and so that's why I'm happy to support this proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Henry.
We're talking on to point 3, is that correct?
Yes, to grant the lease, yes.
It's been proposed and seconded?
Yes, it has.
Yes. So I'd like to speak against that.
Please, yes.
And with the view of if it's not passed, that I can actually put an amendment in and that we lay this to rest till the community groups come together to the very thing that Councillor Sol had mentioned.
Sorry, I think you're foreshadowing that you move to lie on the table, is that correct?
But I'd like to say why. I can speak to this?
Sure.
Yeah. So the reason is that I think, as we've heard, we haven't heard a time frame, but in the community I've heard that this has been going on. The Coast Guard have been wanting to address the situation of emergency parking for nigh on 2 years, and we're only just addressing it now. And it might have been 3 months ago already, but it's been a long time coming. At the same time that we're addressing the issues that they Surf Lifesaving have come along. But I also think that this has been a very, very sloppy community consultation process.
Sorry,
the
Councillor Henry.
letter-
Councillor Henry, that's not appropriate to criticise staff in
Well,
that
the
way.
letter that has been talked about today gave the community, didn't give, I believe, a full opportunity for the PO Shores to express themselves in a timely manner. And I believe there's been phone calls of hearings and stuff like that, but I don't consider that to be good process for consultation. And for that reason, I would like to see that the groups get together and not a decision made today because of that.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Daly.
Yeah, reluctantly, I'm going to speak against this, and for very much the same reasons as Rodney, Alan and Anne. I think there is an opportunity to have another look at this with all parties actively involved. I got the impression that the Coast Guard is definitely open to that. The Waihi Beach Community Board is, and PO Shores definitely. Donna, if we'd heard you first, I might have blanked out everything else, but I appreciate you just want to get on with the business and get on and build this thing at the most convenient site for your purposes. But there are these other factions that need to be, well, not factions, but affected parties that definitely need to be considered. And I think a bit more time with everyone on board to facilitate a speedy solution, I'm sure we can get to the right solution.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Any other speakers? Councillor Wickers.
Reluctantly, I'll vote against it. I appreciate volunteers and everything that they do, both the Coast Guard and the Surf Life Saving Club. I think there is potentially an opportunity here that if it is limited to, say, the end of January, you've got an expert in Rose who's come in at this point. There is value that I think she could add to both organisations, and this could help solve the Coast Guard where they want to go. So if Rose was open to being involved in that, working with both of those parties to actually solve both things in one hit, I think there would be significant value in that.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Crawford.
I guess for me is, I agree with, seeing a better process, but I sort of agree with Councillor Scrimgeour about, is this, keep going on? And obviously they started this process 3 years ago. Personally looking at it, myself, I think, Option is the better site for lots of reasons, but, we've got a community that lives down there too that, we represent. So I guess the question with me, Mr. Mayor, is that whether, there will be a time limit put on this, and if there is, and we think that, we're going over a Christmas period now, a lot of people going to be disappearing, going holiday, and then who's going to put the work in that time period? Can that be achieved realistically? Because if it can't, then, I'll be voting for option 1.
So are you speaking for or against? For, okay. Okay, I'll say a few words. Option 1 is the only option that satisfies the requirements of both the Surf Lifesavers as the applicant and Coast Guard as the affected party. And I think it's important that we as a council support these important lifeline emergency bodies and that do so much to help our safety and well-being for the community. I'm glad that the BMX track will be partly relocated, and that issue seems to have been solved. I'm somewhat unconvinced that there will be a material impact on the ability to play recreational cricket, though I understand the concerns raised by the PO Shores people. It's unclear to me what delaying the process will achieve. I appreciate that Sam and Donna have expressed that they are willing to continue talking, and what other option is there but not to do that. But I don't think there's a a magic solution around the corner that's going to suddenly present itself. Donna said this has been worked on for a number of years. I think all parties have made detailed submissions and expressed themselves eloquently today. And I'm not sure that we're going to either learn a great deal more in the next couple of months or find a spot. So I'll vote for the option one. But if it doesn't pass, then so be it, and we can carry on. But yeah, I'm voting for. Murray, would you like your right of reply?
I have sat and listened quietly all morning to this, and I appreciate the point that Councillor Joyce and Sol and others have made about the delay. But we've taken 3 years to get to this point, and I'm really struggling to find out what another month or two is going to add to that process. We've been assured by Peter that all our statutory processes have been followed to the law, to the letter. And he's told us that the PR Shores people have been invited and been involved in discussions to date along through the process. So it's not something that's suddenly a surprise. But I think the important thing is, as the Mayor's pointed out, that those two bodies that are involved in the Lifeline provision, Surf Life Saving and Coast Guard, have clearly explained the issues. Surf Life Saving obviously know what they want. That's why they applied for it. And for us to sit here and tell them that, no, they've got it wrong and they don't really know what they're talking about, I think is a little bit arrogant. I propose the motion in order to get some discussion going and get it on the table and to get to a point. For that reason, but that's the reason why I did. As we went into it, I was thinking that perhaps it would be good to let lie on the table, but having listened to everything this morning, I believe we have had the information we need and we can make a decision, and we should and could grant the lease. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Granger. So with that, I shall put the motion, and I suspect it's going to be close, so I think we'll have a raise of hands on this one. So all those in favour of recommendations 3 and 5, and 5 being the other consents required, etc. But it's basically option 1 to grant the lease. Please raise your hands if you're in favour. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And those against, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I declare the motion lost. So with that, and given that it's been foreshadowed, I'll move that it lie on the table until the first council meeting of the new year. And I'm going mid-February, I'm being told. I mean, it's not going to be in early January or something, so, you know. Yep. No, it's a point of order, but.
Well, it is actually, sir, and that is, we've got a rough date, but I do feel that is the date we're having the meeting. So the parties need to know that they need to make their decisions available to our staff for our papers earlier than that.
I'm sure all that stuff will be worked out. Let's not get into the administrative details. So I'll move this. It's lies on the table until the first council meeting of the new year, and we'll have a. If you want to second it, Councillor Joyce. All those in favour, please say aye. Lie on the table until the first council meeting of the new year. I'll put the motion. All those in. Oh, sorry. So which comments were those? No, I don't think we can, I don't think that's not the right form to do that. Look, we're putting a motion, I don't think, this is a point of order. Yeah.
We have a policy that if a motion is lost, it doesn't come back with it. So we overriding this.
You can get, no, you can vote on it again. Yes. Because you can rescind it if we so desired, we could rescind it now if we really had to.
We have
But,
policy for a reason. If a motion is lost, it doesn't come back. That's how we operate for many, many years. So, we're rescinding it and just retelling it.
no, so it's lying on the table, and there's potentially a new proposal coming forward. Okay. Yeah. Just point of order.
Am I allowed to rescind a word that I use?
I think we'll resolve this outside of this public thing. Okay, so lie on the table until the first council meeting of the new year. I've moved it. Councillor Joyce has seconded it. I've put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. So you're against? Okay. Right, and with that, I think we better I'm going to have a little break until 12:10, and we'll come back to finish things off. Okay? Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So we'll now move to item 11.4, page 292, Makatu Volunteer Coast Guard Incorporated, Otapaira Reserve. Council approval of land lease for the siting of a new Coast Guard building. And some of you must be feeling quite nervous at this point, but hopefully we'll go quicker than the last one. So Peter, why don't you take us away with this one?
If you wish, I might just invite Shane Beach up, and would you like to come up with a couple of, have you got, yeah, we've got the whole gang in here, which is good to see. Just hope nothing's happening off the coast of thing right now. So I've just got so many submissions to get through from the previous one before I get to this report.
I won't be asking where's the nearest cricket pitch, because that could be awkward.
Oh, yeah, so just quickly introducing the report, that it's always been the intent to have Coast Guard. They expressed an interest in the site when we purchased Otapaira as a great spot for them to be more established and develop their function and service to the community and education, etc. We went through a concept planning process which identified having the Coast Guard shown on the site that it is in the picture, in the plan, and that there was something like 80% support for them being there, and it's really good support. And I've been having a bit to do with them lately. A good bunch of guys do a hell of a lot of good stuff for the community out there, and yeah, we've enjoyed working with them to date, and continuing that. So I guess we're just seeking direction from council as a landowner to, this isn't subject to the Reserves Act, by the way. Yeah, just point that one out. So there is no formal consultation, but we believe the concept planning has been very robust and detailed, and open days and everything like that, and there is definitely support for Coast Guard there. So happy to answer any questions, but if you wish to.
Okay, questions for Peter or Shane and his team? Any more questions? No? Okay, we'll look for a mover and seconder for the resolutions, and I'm assuming we're going for 1, 2, 3 and 5. Councillor Crawford, Deputy Mayor Scrimger. Any debates? Okay, well, I'll just say that it'll be good to see this next step in the Otapaira concept plan come to life, and look forward to it. But Deputy Mayor Scrimger.
Yeah, I'd just like to compliment you all. I know this has been a very long process, but I commend you for the tenacious way you've stuck to your guns, and but also the very patient way when it seemed like there were issues to resolve and climb over. So commend you for the work you've done to prepare us well for this point, and really happy to be able to support you and see you move on.
Councillor Sol.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I just am so pleased to see this before us at long last. I know it's been floating around a long time. We have been out there, we've seen the sites, we've discussed this before. It all makes basic sense. Here's hoping you guys can really make a bird of this, and good luck to you. Thanks for doing it, and again, looking after people's lives.
Okay, Councillor Crawford, did you want to have a right of reply, or do you want to speak anyway? Or right, so Councillor Daly then.
Yeah, congratulations to you guys. I know you have had a good consultation process to get to this point, starting probably nearly 3 years ago as well. But that's a great reserve site that's come about opportunely for both council, recreation users, and you guys in particular. And as per the previous discussion at Bowen Town, you had major issues having to transport your equipment from like the fire brigade down to Ford Road, and this certainly shortcuts that significantly. You've basically got the boat ramp within 100 metres of that site, so that's absolutely fantastic, and you're tucked away in the corner of that site, so it's not really impacting on any other users when that site's fully developed. So congratulations, and fully supportive of what's happening.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford, your right of reply then, please.
I too just want to congratulate you and fully supportive as somebody who uses that space too, us ski fishermen and boaties, and we're looking forward to seeing that developed, and just to recognise the work that you guys do. You guys won some awards. It's good, and so hopefully you guys are going to even become better and what you do. So yeah, so just happy to really fully support this, as you guys know. I'm glad we haven't had to spend another hour and a half debating this. Yeah, just congratulations. Eh? Exactly right. That's how we do it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Crawford. So I'll now put the motion. All those in favour of 1, 2, 3 and 5, which is to grant the lease, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Okay, moving on to item 11.5, which is the number 4 road bridge reinstatement on page 310. We have Callum, our senior transport engineer, to introduce this one, please.
Can I take the report as being read and go straight to questions?
Okay, short and sweet. Any questions of Callum? Councillor Wickers.
Yes, Callum, really appreciate the fact that an engagement that happened with the number 4 road community. They appreciated being allowed to have that input. At that meeting, there was the discussion where the option 5 was put forward. It was only on the basis that there was concerns about the geometric alignment for option 1. So are you able to update us on that?
So the next stage of the project would be to seek a consultant to do a specimen design and develop a request for tender document for a design and construct contract. That specimen design will tell us whether or not option 1 is a viable option in terms of the geometric alignment. If it proves not to be a viable option, then what we'll do is we'll come back to council and seek a decision on the other options.
And the second question was that they raised was around over-width loads for forestry equipment. What was the width of that was being proposed? And is it suitable for like category 1 over-width loads?
So legally, there's a limit to the size of the vehicle that can use New Zealand roads. So ultimately, we'd be working to that maximum limit. That would be the technical specification provided to the design and construct contractor.
Yes, I suppose this question is not so much about alignment, but just being able to get an over-width load between the rails of the bridge.
Yeah, again, it's really just a case of, identifying what the largest vehicle is going to be, and then making sure that when we do the specimen design that we check that and make sure that, the geometric alignment can accommodate that larger vehicle. So it's not really something that we would do at this stage. It's something that's done at the next stage of the project.
Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Yeah, just following on, I guess, from Councillor Wicker's first question around the option 5, which was put forward at the consultation meeting with residents there. I took it, or perhaps put it another way, in regards to your answer, because one of the advantages of that supposedly was that it would be a cheaper construction site to use the existing site. But of course, the negative was the impact on how long it would take to move the Bailey Bridge. So was any assessment made in regard to the cost of moving the Bailey Bridge and the time that would take, and those issues that would enable using the cheapest option?
We haven't done an assessment of the cost, but I suspect what we would find is that any cost benefits from using the existing bridge foundations, and that's where the cost benefit would come in, would be offset by the fact that we would have to construct new foundations for the Bailey Bridge on the alternative alignment. So we haven't done an assessment, but I don't believe that option 5 is a cheaper option.
Councillor Crawford.
So there's also the issue, if you did relocate the Bailey Bridge and to put it there, then accessing number 4 road, the people who own the road that we use during the emergency are not happy about that being reused.
So Waka Kotai's contractor has undertaken some maintenance on the number 4 road Bailey Bridge next week. That's going to require that number 4 road be closed for a period of 4 to 6 hours. Council staff reached out to the owners of the private road to ask them whether that private road could be used as an alternative route for those 4 to 6 hours. And they declined to allow us to use the road as a detour. So I think at this stage it's unlikely that we would get permission from the owners of the private road to use it as an alternative if we decided to shift the Bailey Bridge.
Councillor Joyce.
Apologies if I've missed it, but yeah, if we go ahead with option 1, and what's the timeline like? I know you just said there's further work to be done, so I'm presuming it's construction season comes into it as well.
So we're looking to construct the bridge probably August, September next year. The reason for that is to avoid the main part of the kiwi fruit season when the kiwi fruit's getting transported on the roads. So if we have a decision today, that gives us 9 months to seek a contractor, develop a specimen design, and then procure a contractor, and then have that contractor do the design work and consenting work needed for the permanent bridge. So at the moment, we have adequate time to do everything that we need to do to look at commencing construction early spring next year.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, sir. I know I'm stepping out of line in many ways here, but we at times, I'm just starting to feel about this alignment and other issues like this, that we're working on the stereotype of a straight bridge. Is there any reason why we can't look at a slightly more S-shaped bridge that allows for the flow? That's something that we have control over, that we're able to do something with. It's going to cost, we know that, but if it's going to fix some of our problems in the future, maybe it's again worth looking at this design issue. That's all. I'm just throwing it out there. Thank you.
So I guess I would respond in 2 ways to that question. The first part is access at the western end of the bridge, where the road goes around an S-bend and then further up the road to the number 4 road community. We actually need to provide left and right turns off that bridge because the owners of the private road want to be able to turn right off the bridge down their own road. A curved bridge would make that more difficult. The second part is when you're constructing reinforced concrete, if you're using curved formwork, it's substantially more expensive than using straight formwork. So the cost would be more, it would be greater.
Sounds like an iconic bridge almost. But Councillor Daly, your question.
Yeah, I was going to ask all the same questions you've just been asked, maybe apart from Alan's question, but it's very
Okay, I think,
worthwhile.
so do you have a new question, Councillor Daly? Because
Well, I'm a little bit concerned that we had the meeting with the community. That's where option 5 came from. Concerns were raised at the meeting about geometric alignment and truck turning radiuses and circles. And it's really difficult to say this publicly, but the answers seem to be exactly the same as the meeting we had in the pack house in terms of the questions that were raised. And there's no costing, there's no indicative costing to option 5, the additional cost to move the Bailey Bridge. There's no answer to the turning circle question. I mean, unless you just approve an option and then you'll find out if that's the right option once the design is done. Surely there must be a way to do a quick analysis to actually determine these things based on a quick geometrical check of the road and the bridge alignment. I mean, I'm just a bit flummoxed, really.
do you want to respond to that, or was that, because I think you kind of explained it, that the design gives you the geometrical alignment, but if you want to comment any further, then please do.
If the council decides that you want us to go back and do more investigation into option 5, then we're happy to do that. Obviously, it will have an impact on the overall programme for the delivery of the bridge.
Thank you. Councillor Wickers.
I would like to move recommendations if there's no more questions.
I'll see if there's any more questions first. Does anyone have any more questions on this one? Councillor Caulfield?
I was just saying that we need to consider what I said about if we do option 5, about access to that when that's been constructed needs to be taken into consideration. Seeing that the owners that only other road to get in there are not happy for us to use it, so we have to weigh that up when we're making this decision.
Yeah. Okay. Another question?
Yeah, question of process, I guess, and sort of relates back to Don's question earlier. But if the design has progressed and we find that option 1 is not suitable because of the geometric alignment, and we have to come back and approve option 5 instead of option 1, are we limited by the 6-month stand down, or can we resolve it the same way we plan on resolving the Waihi Beach situation?
Well, if option 1 is not found to be viable, then we're kind of back to square one and have a choice of options 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll cross that bridge. That's a bad pun. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Yeah, sorry, not intended, but yeah. We'll build that bridge when we get to it, yeah. So, Councillor Wickers, you wanted to move something.
Yes, I'd like to move recommendations 1, 2 and 3, but endorsing option 1, however with an amendment, if I could offer that.
What's your
The amendment would be that's just subject to subject to suitable geometric design for standard, to some roading standard for standard vehicles.
Why don't we say it's subject to appropriate geographical alignment being achieved?
Yep, to some standard. For
Well,
standard.
rather than just trying to find the standard, should we just say appropriate? I mean,
Yep,
I think we
okay.
Isn't that a given?
Yeah. Yep, okay. Yep.
It
No,
is,
because-
it is sort of a given, but if it adds a little bit of extra comfort for some people.
I'll explain when I get the opportunity to speak.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the motion. So it's recommendation 1, 2 and 3. I'll read out the new 3. The council approves option 1, subject to appropriate geographical alignment being achieved. Geometrical alignment being achieved, as shown on attachment 1, etc., etc. Okay? You happy with that? So is there a seconder for that? Councillor Joyce. So speakers for and against, please.
So, I note that in the executive summary, the purpose of this is actually to progress just a singular option, and rather than we're not saying that it's option one. We're saying we want to progress option one. The concerns that the number 4 road community had that provided option 5 was just around the alignment. That if the alignment can be achieved, particularly on that S bend and onto the bridge, then there is no reason for option 5. And so I think in the for the sake of progressing this, that's why I would have moved option 1 with that proviso.
Further speakers? Councillor Joyce.
Just say my first reaction is, why do we need this? But I agree with Andy that it brings the community along, and that's always a good thing, right? It's not going to cost us anything. Callum said he's already going to do it. So if it brings the community along with us a bit better, then that's why I second it.
Okay. Councillor Daly.
Well, I'm supportive of the approach, but I'm wondering if I could maybe add a little bit extra that so that we don't get into the situation I talked about earlier, and that if option 1 proves to be unviable because of these turning circles, that option 5 is the backup option, and it's an automatic go to just transfer the process and the workings and budget to option 5.
Well, Callum's already explained that as the process, but I think Callum wants to speak to that.
So as Councillor Crawford's pointed out, one of the major drawbacks of option 5 is the fact that we would have to close the road for maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and there's no alternative route available for the number 4 road community during that time that the road is closed. So I think if number 1 road is not a viable option, then council would be looking at option 2 or 3 instead as a better option rather than option 5. I think option 5 has to be ruled out because of the fact that you're effectively cutting off access to number 4 road community for as long as it takes to move the Bailey Bridge.
Okay, thank you, Callum. Although I note that any further decisions will have to be made at that time. I don't think we should be ruling things out at this point, because if we're going with option 1, then that's the one before us. So, any other speakers for or against? Well, no, I'll just say a quick word on this one. Option 1 is the most sensible one from a cost and risk point of view. It was also the most popular in the consultation. We've heard that, or changed the amendment slightly so that we've got comfort that it will allow trucks to go on with a suitable geometric alignment. And if that doesn't prove possible, then we can come back for another think. So with that, I'll let Councillor Wickers have his right to reply.
Yep, so just to conclude, if the alignment can't happen on option 1, it'll be because the cost of removing the bank on the other side is so high that it'll make those other options more viable. So I will be voting in favour of the amendment.
Okay, so with that, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Callum. Moving on to item 11.6 and someone about delegations on page 317. Rachel or Lizzie?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Councillors. The report on the agenda in front of you today seeks your approval for you to delegate the necessary powers, functions and duties of Council as outlined in Attachment A. So at the beginning of this year, we started a review of staff delegations, which was presented to you on the 16th of March. Since then, we have completed a comprehensive review of all staff delegations, and this is being brought to you today. It is recommended that no less than once a year would we review staff delegations, but they would be done on a case-by-case basis. So I'm going to take this report as read, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So questions for Lizzie? No? Okay, so we'll look for a mover and seconder for those three recommendations, please. Councillor Thwaites, Councillor Granger. Is there any debate? No? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Page 341, my report to council. So the only, I'll take it as read, but the only update, which I said I'd give a verbal update, was on the special general meeting for the LGNZ. And I think as Councillor Granger already communicated, each of the five resolutions was passed with a healthy majority. So that was that's the position. And happy to take any questions on that or anything else in my report. Councillor Joyce.
That's one thing. I thought we'd changed, or Local Government New Zealand had changed name from Future for Local Government to Future by Local Government. So are we making that change or are we lagging?
I don't think it's something I'm going to get excited about, but it's, yeah, they did. I think they were differentiating between the Future for Local Government report and then, yeah, as you say, taking control by yourselves and the Future by Local Government, but
lining up the phrasing is what I was thinking.
Let's not tie ourselves in semantics. But, okay, thank you. Any more questions? No? Okay, I'll happy to move my report. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sol. Any debate? No? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. I'll note on page 343, information for receipt, which is the CCTV outcomes. But subsequent to that, we need to move to the confidential section. So can I have a mover and seconder to exclude the public, please? Councillor Henry,